So welcome everyone. My name is Dave Kirby. This is my co-host, Katie Jones. I want to thank you for joining us today for a day in the life of a successful voiceover artist with Rachael Sparrow. Hi, Rachael.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks very much for being here for us. Now, to get things started, I guess we should have said this off the bat, but we do have a question and answer panel that we want you to be able to make this interactive. So if you go to your Q&A panel, if you have any questions, type them in there. We'll try to get to them throughout the webinar. To get us started, though, we're going to chat a little bit with Rachael, kind of get an ideas to her background, what brought her here, and then, like I said, a little later on, we'll get to some of your questions, once we're all caught up to speed.
Awesome. So, Rachael, a little bit of background about her for everyone to know. You're a passionate storyteller with a girl next door, young mom tone. You can go from fun and conversational, but also to somber and serious. Everyone, Rachel's a singer and also a vocal coach as well. And you began your voiceover career almost by accident, I hear. You thrive on self-directed environments and love to create your own schedule, which I'm sure a lot of people can agree on as well. The Voices.com vehicle has enabled you to be at home with your children, as I understand, but you also are able to pursue a career that you're really passionate about.
And it looks like we might have, okay, there we go. I thought we lost you for a second.
Sorry, guys. I thought I had it on Do Not Disturb.
Oh, okay. So I guess for starters, what did you do before you got into voiceover?
It's actually really funny. So I'm gonna take you guys back a little bit. So we're gonna go back to college, right? So I graduate college. I went to Northeastern University, had a degree in communications and marketing. Get my first job out of school in public relations, and I'm so excited. I'm like a go-getter, first week on the job, finish all my projects, and I go to my boss. I'm like, okay, I'm done. What can I do next? And she gives me something else. And that kind of happened all week. And then I remember going to her like, okay, I'm done. And she's like, okay, I have no more work for you. You can just kind of hang. And I'm like, well, if I'm done, can I just go home? And she was like, girl, no. And I'm looking around at all of these people just hanging, waiting for something to happen. And on social media, oh my goodness.
Uh-oh.
Sorry, guys.
No, that's okay. As long as you can
back?
Still hear us.
Okay.
Yeah, you're back.
So I knew at that point that the typical work world was not going to be for me. I knew that I had to create my own path, that I had a very entrepreneurial spirit, and I thrive in a self-directed environment where I know it's up to me. And if I don't make it, then I have nobody to blame but myself. So I knew that I had to find something where I just, I could be driven. So after a few jobs, I met my husband. I was actually working in radio at the time, working in ad sales, which was rough, but I met my awesome husband out of it, and we started writing music and playing together, and he had a recording studio. And so I thought, wouldn't it be so cool if I had this recording studio as a kid? So I started giving lessons to some of our friends' kids, and from that, it just kind of snowballed into my company that I have now, which is Sing Voice Studio, and I give lessons to kids. But it never dawned on me that a music studio could also be a voiceover studio. It never dawned on me. So it's kind of funny that I started this by accident.
That's hilarious. So
Yeah.
Now, when you got started, did you start out with a coach, or kind of how did you progress to where you're at now?
Well, I would say my husband was probably my biggest coach. He's been in radio for over 20 years. And, it's like he's a tough coach, though. So sometimes I wouldn't always listen to him. But, he obviously knows me very well. And in the beginning, when I first started doing this, I had this weird reporter voice that I would do. And I really felt like I had to be this character. And I would read the scripts, and I would just be in this weird voice that wasn't really me. And he'd be like, why are you doing that? They just want to hear you. And I'm like, they do? They just want to hear me? I'm like, that's not fun. But he's like, no, it is. They want a regular person. They don't want some newscaster robot. And once I kind of got over that, the job started really coming in. And really, once I became myself, and just telling stories, it really started to roll.
Now, so would you say then that everything that you had done, leading into this kind of, I guess kind of culminated into helping to create, between your voice acting, you're an accomplished singer as well. This obviously all kind of goes together as part of the performance industry.
Sure, absolutely. That definitely plays a role. I mean, I am on the reverse side of this where I'm dealing with kids and you have to be very direct and very clear with coaching them and what you want. And so now I'm on the flip side of it, really trying to, if I'm in a live directed session, really trying to listen to what my client is getting at. Because sometimes it's hard, when you're just speaking over the phone, we don't get to see them, we don't get to be in the room with them. But to really listen to what it is they need and the story they want to tell. So sure, it's definitely helped me to, I really think, to become a better listener, because I've been on the other side. And when somebody is not listening to what you're trying to tell them and taking direction, that can be very frustrating. So absolutely.
So how do you stay on top of things then? I mean, even as somebody is as successful as you're at now, do you find yourself still having to, are there things that you do to practice or to stay sharp, or do you revisit with say coaches or anything like that?
You know what? I really feel like I don't treat this as a hobby. I treat it as my career, my passion, and I am down in my studio every day. I think that's the biggest piece, with anything, with working out, with anything. If you want to get better, you need to do it consistently. And that doesn't mean spending 15 hours in my studio and blood, sweat, and tears. No, it's just making it a habit every day to come down here. For me, my studio is in our home, in my basement, and carving out time where I know that I'm going to audition for at least five projects a day. My goal is to always have 100 a month, because it's a numbers game. The more you audition for, the more you're going to get. So I make it a point to come down here every day and audition. I also try to have people that I respect and that I know are going to give me constructive criticism, not just say, yeah, that was great. Oh my gosh, it was so amazing, because that's awesome. That lifts you up. But you also need to have those people that you trust their opinion and they're going to make you better. So it's not just all about, yeah, I'm so amazing. That's not what it's about. You have to continually grow. And like I said, my husband's in radio. So we have a lot of people around us that are in the entertainment industry or, know what they're talking about. So even if you don't have that, there are so many mentors at voices.com that I feel like I've created wonderful relationships with, that I could say, honestly, I could ask them, hey, what do you think of this? This is a new demo I'm putting together. Do you think this is okay? Do you think I need to take it up a notch? And so there are teachers and mentors everywhere.
Awesome. So how would you best describe your sound and your voice?
My sound and my voice. It's funny when you listen back to yourself, sometimes it's like, is that me? That's what I sound like. Right? We all do that. We're like, that's not what I really sound like. But I think my thing is the girl next door, bubbly, fun. Those are the jobs that I really gravitate towards. There are the more serious ones where they're just emotional and deep, and those are fun to do too. But I love the ones that, I'm telling a story, and if the end user, the end client hears it, it puts a little pep in their step and makes them a little happier that day. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that I love to do.
Awesome. Looking at your profile and your background, you've got some pretty big names behind you there. Amazon, Google. What's the best job you've booked outside of voices.com?
The NFL.
The NFL, yeah. I really haven't booked anything outside of voices.com. I really don't try outside of voices.com. Some people may have a website on their own, but I really just I go through voices.com for everything, because the structure is there. I'm a busy mom. I have 2 awesome little monkeys, 6 years old and 4 years old. I give about 20 voice lessons a week. I have my husband, and we're always going and doing. So to have an outside website and to have to be dealing with people outside of the voices.com structure, I think would be just another level of complication. And I haven't ventured there yet. So I stick to the voices.com platform because everything's just so user friendly and it's just tied up in a nice bow. So I just hang on there.
Awesome. Yeah, we try to make it pretty convenient and user friendly. Do you remember the first job you ever booked with Voices?
So the first job that I ever got was really exciting and terrifying all at the same time. Oh my gosh. I remember it was probably my first month with voices.com. And I actually remember auditioning for it because it was one of the auditions that my husband was sitting down in the studio with me, and I was probably doing that weird reporter voice thing that I thought was cool. I don't know. And he's like, why are you doing that? I'm like, I don't know. He goes, just be fun. Just do Rachel. I'm like, okay. So I read the script and he's like, okay, that was good. Now take it up. I'm like, okay. So I'm just going to go all out for this. I'm just going to be totally weird and see what happens. And sure enough, I got the job and it was for PetSmart. And I played the role of this cute little Australian shepherd. And I'm like this inner monologue of a dog. And I remember getting the job and they said, okay, we want to do a live directed session. And I was like, absolutely. What the heck is a live directed session? I had no idea. So finally I figured out that meant that they wanted to be on the phone while I was recording. Okay, I can handle that. It's a little stressful, but I was like, all right, I can do this. And it was really trial by fire because I was on the line with the client, PetSmart, big company. It was their agency actually. And I remember them saying, okay, that was great. Can we get, let's go from the top again. And we're going to take it line by line. And can you give us an ABC on each line? And I was like, totally. Absolutely. So I quickly learned an ABC means give me that first line 3 times without stopping. And, and then they were like, okay, can we hear that back? And I was like, oh my gosh, I got to play it back for them. So it was a lot happening all at once, but it was a great way to really learn how the big agencies like to play, how they like to hear things back, how they like to, you want to make sure if you're doing a lot of takes of something that you're keeping track as well. So I always write down now, okay, take number 1. If I'm going to do an ABC, meaning I'm going to do it 3 times, afterwards, if they're like, oh, B was really good, I make sure I circle B. And, it seems very simple, but if you haven't done that before, how would you know? So now that really kind of groomed me to not be afraid of the live directed sessions, which I think is a really nice added value. I try to throw that in there for especially the bigger jobs because, it's nice. At first it was scary, but it's nice to have the client on the phone to tell you right there, okay, we like it, we don't like it, rather than having to go back and forth. And so that really, it worked to my benefit for that first one. And it's on YouTube still. My kids are like, my mom was a dog for PetSmart. So cool.
That is cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite job that you've booked out of the many with voices.com?
I have a few that are really special. There was one, it was called, I always mess up the number, 100 billion trillion stars. And it was for a new children's book that was coming out. And it was based on all these different numbers, how in our universe and world, we have so many different numbers. And when I saw the final product, the illustrations for the book are in there. And the book was beautiful. It was just so colorful and fun. And at the very end, it says, of all these crazy numbers in our world, there's only one of you. And my son, he is going into first grade this year. He just thought that was so cool. So I actually got the book and I read it to his first grade or his kindergarten class last year. And that was like such a thrill. And then he was like, my mom's on YouTube. You guys got to check her out. So cool. So that was a really special one.
Now, you've been with Voices now for a couple of years, since I think 2016 you signed up with us. What made you want to take the next step to upgrade your membership to get to the point where you're ready to start auditioning to the jobs that are posted?
I actually made that decision pretty quickly. I found voices.com. There were some other companies out there, but they did not want to pay. I saw what the jobs were going for and I'm like, I'm not going to do this big job for that amount of money. That's ridiculous. And voices.com really seemed like a robust company, that the infrastructure was there. It was very user friendly. I understood it very quickly. So, and you could look at the jobs that were out there, and I was like, well, I can't wait on this. I'm a very reactionary person, so I pretty much just jumped into it, and I'm so glad that I did, because I think if I had waited and stewed on it too long, then maybe I wouldn't have gotten that PetSmart job, and that was so fun.
Yeah, you gotta strike while the iron is hot.
Absolutely.
Did you have somebody, a mentor or someone to help you with the resources on the site, when you first got started?
Not really. I remember speaking with the person that I was assigned to at voices.com to kind of walk me through the process, because there's a lot there in the beginning. But I really took my time and just clicked on everything, went through so many different resources, and I loved the scripts, because I didn't have any jobs, so I needed a demo to put up there, and I had vocal things, singing tracks that I had recorded, but nothing speaking. So I was like, well, I can just make it up. It can be a fake demo with just a script that I'm reading, and absolutely. So I read through, and I really didn't know. If I had just Googled, I mean, weird things were coming up when you Google. It just didn't fit right. So on the resources guide, I did find some scripts that were just very casual, and they completely worked, even though I, had never booked anything. So.
And then, so you got the demos up, and then, at that point, then you're ready to start auditioning. How was that when you first started?
It was, in the beginning, a little bit nerve-wracking, because I wanted it to be perfect. And I didn't realize that I didn't have to read the entire script. I thought that I had to read the entire script that was there. And I was really, taking a lot of time. I was redoing it 4, 5, 6 times for each audition. And, it takes a lot of time. And then I was like handcrafting this beautiful cover letter for each job. And, as I became a little bit more seasoned, I realized you can streamline that process a lot. Now, some people have demos that they send for each job. I have never done that. I've always just read part of the script and, tried to make the cover letter a little bit personal. I don't completely write a new one every time, but I throw in a little bit of personality if I can. But I always try to, sometimes the auditions would be 2 minutes long. Now my goal is to have like a 30-second audition. That's usually what I shoot for. Anything over that, if they can't make up their mind in 30 seconds, they'll ask you for something else. If they really like what they heard and they want a second audition, I've gotten that before too. So.
Well, and I'm glad you bring that up, and that's one of the things that I think a lot of people don't realize is clients really like the custom auditions. So, and you don't need to read a lot. 10 or 15 seconds is more than enough. They know at that point whether they're interested or not. But submitting just a demo to an audition, it doesn't give them that custom feel, that authentic sense of, how are you going to sound, if we hire you. What do you know now that you wish you knew when you first started with us?
Probably, I didn't realize in the very beginning that you can save your template, your cover letter template within the voices.com site. So like I said, I was rewriting the cover letter each time. And then I was also, when I figured, okay, I need to streamline this, I was just copying and pasting it into the space for the cover letter. You can actually save templates within voices.com. So I think it's under my profile. I wrote it down. I think that's where it is. I forget exactly where it is. I want to say it's under my profile, but then you can have templates right in there. So I have 3 saved. So I have one that just says hi blank, and I always put in the producer's name. If you scroll to the bottom of the job, you can see who the producer is or who is doing the post. So I try to make that personal by, putting their name in there. And then one of the templates that I have is if I want to do a live directed session, I'll have that included in there. I'll say this bid includes a live directed session. Sometimes I don't want to do that, because if they're only going to pay $250, I don't want to do a live directed session. You know, I have a cap that I say, I'm only going to do live directed sessions for X amount. So if I don't want to do a live directed session, I have another template for that. And then I also have a template for people who have sent me private invitations. So thank you so much for the private invitation. I'd be thrilled to work with you, blah, blah, blah. And then, like I said, I try to add a little bit of my personality in there. There was one recently for, I think it was for Little Debbie. And I grew up, my mom's name is Debbie, and I grew up on Little Debbie's, and I was like, this would be such a thrill to work with you on this project. I really thought as a kid that my mom had, like, it was her company. I really did. Like, she's Debbie, so like this must be our company. So I worded that some way in there and added that in. But, you know, I think by adding your personality, there are a lot of people auditioning for these jobs, so you need to set yourself apart just a bit. You don't need to give them a whole long diatribe, but, you know, adding a little bit of yourself in there is good.
Exactly.
For sure. So I wanted to ask you a couple questions just about your studio and what's going on in there. So what microphone do you have right now?
This puppy, this is a Shure. I wrote down because I always forget which one it is. This is the Shure SMB, and this is vintage 90s, which it's sad that we're calling the 90s vintage. 90s vintage. I actually started with a mic that was fine. It was an AKG, but I just didn't like the way that it sounded. So this one is, it's a dynamic mic. It's not a condenser mic. And I really like the warmth that it gives. So sometimes microphones are like shoes, you know, you have to kind of try them on and see how they feel. And for every voice, you know, maybe for you, you don't want a dynamic mic. And again, on the resources guide on voices.com, they have a ton of information about different kinds of microphones, different USB mics if you just want to go right through your laptop. I have a mixer and a full studio, but they do have a lot of great USB mics out there too.
Perfect. What made you choose that specific one that you have right now?
Well, my husband is a broadcast engineer, like I was telling you guys. He just kind of had these laying around, to be honest. And I remember when we had first gotten together, we would always sing and write and record. And I always liked the way that this one sounded on my vocals. So I kind of just tried out a few mics and then came back to this one because I just really liked the way it sounded. And yeah, sometimes it may be hard to try out different microphones, but if you know the sound you're going for, and you kind of have a criteria, you know, you can kind of narrow it down that way, and by price range too.
Yeah, for sure. So you mentioned you've got your mixer and you've got a couple different things there. What are you using in regards to your editing software?
For editing, I have bare bones Adobe Audition. It's very, very user friendly. It's not very fancy. I've been using Adobe Audition for my voice lessons because I record my students as well. So I had been using that for years, and it's just, you know, very straightforward. I think sometimes, you know, the fancy big systems are out there, but for what we're doing, I'm not doing a ton of editing on my end. Normally I'll take out little chunks if I need to, or I'll take out a breath here and there, but normally the client doesn't want you to be the one to edit and, you know, change anything. They just want you to send them the raw files. So you just need something pretty basic, in my opinion.
Okay. And it was fairly easy to use and to learn how to use when you first got it?
It was, yeah. I mean, luckily my husband kind of walked me through the process, but we live in an age where we have the YouTube, right? And you can go on YouTube and learn anything. And if you didn't get it the first time, you can watch it over and over and over again, which is such an awesome tool. So it really depends on the user. I find it very, very easy to use. Like I said, I'm not doing huge editing if I need to take out a breath here and there. It's really kind of the same thing that I do over and over again. So once you kind of get into that groove of how the system works, you've got it. It's not like all of a sudden there's going to be some new thing that someone's going to ask you to do and you're not going to be prepared for that. It's very basic.
Okay. And the headphones you have on, did you have any help picking those out, or what do you have there?
These are, well, I have some Sonys over here. I think you guys have the same ones that I have over here. These are the Bear, I think. I don't even know. Isn't that sad?
We're all checking each other's headphones.
The Bear Dynamics. And then I also have the ones you guys are wearing too. I really like the ones that fit over your ear rather than just the buds because I don't know. I just feel like it's better for your ears. You know, if you constantly have those earbuds in, I don't know. I feel like this is a little safer for our ears. And then, I like to be able to pull one off. And then also sometimes with the earbuds, it'll feed back into the microphone. You can actually hear a little bit more. It really isolates the sound. So you don't want anything else coming through in your microphone. So that's why I like the ones that are big earmuffs.
Awesome. So I know that you had a little bit of help with your studio as your husband has expertise in that. Uh-huh. Do you have any tricks for people that might be watching in regards to building their own studios and soundproofing?
Absolutely. Sometimes I think we see other studios or I know this is just my guitar's in the background, but my studio is over here to my right, which it may be flipped. But you see somebody else's space and you're like, oh my gosh, I could never do that. Start small. Start even in just a closet. Really what you want to have is no reflection. So carpet on the floor. There's a lot of really great resources for sound tiles. Actually, right behind me, my husband made these sound tiles. So we have some right here, and then I don't think you can see, but there's in the corner above me, there's wedging, foam wedging, and then we also have the same tiles that are behind me on the ceiling, and then to my right. So he before we got married, before we had kids, he was like, I need a project. So he figured out how to make them probably on YouTube and filled them with, it's a batting. He made me write this down, the acoustic fire bats. And then we actually got some really cool screen print. And this, you can't see them unfortunately, but they're to my right. And then he filled those with foam batting as well. But really what you need to do is just have a space that has no reflection, right? So carpeting, you can even put carpet in a small space on the walls. It doesn't have to be fancy at first, just get your feet wet and just make sure you're not in like a garage or your shower because that's not going to sound very good. Privacy maybe, but sound-wise, I don't think that's going to work too well.
Now, I want to just kind of remind everybody that, this is for you guys. So if you do have some questions, we'd love to make this as interactive as possible. James wanted to ask a question a little while ago. So we'll get to that now just because we're going to get to the portion where we kind of ask you a little bit about your demos. Cool. And James was kind of wondering, what goes into making a demo? Like, do you make your own at first? Did you acquire it professionally? Because he's looking to make a demo and wants a little bit of direction.
Absolutely. I did it myself. Like I said, I went through the resources guide, found a script that I thought matched my personality, and I did a few of them actually. And I didn't do this for all of them, but for a couple, if you go on YouTube, you can find royalty-free music. And then I just put it into Adobe Audition, put the music really low, had my vocal on top, and then sandwiched it together, made it an MP3. And I just did them myself. Now you can get them produced, but I think starting out, if you are recording your own demos and, pulling in sound bites from YouTube or from wherever, make sure it's royalty free though, because you don't want to get in trouble. It's going to sharpen your skill as well, your editing skill, and teach you kind of how to do it. And, I would just get anything up in the beginning. And then as you're auditioning more and more, you're just going to get better and better. And then you're going to listen to that old demo and you're going to say, oh my gosh, I can't believe I still have that up. I've grown so much from then. So you can just keep increasing. But if you're the kind of person who does not do any editing at all, then, maybe find a friend or find somebody, look on that resources guide for somebody to make you a demo. But it doesn't need to be, this elaborate production in my opinion and experience at first. I think you just need something to get started and then grow from there.
Well, absolutely. And I mean, because at the end of the day, what the client is going to hear is the auditions that you're submitting, which is based on the script that they provided you.
Absolutely.
Now, because you really have grown a lot since you started this, you got a little bit of everything showcased in your demos. Now you got phone greetings, TV promos, educational narration. How many do you have now?
I think there's 8 up there now. To be honest, I put my demos up there, and I'm not on that side all the time. I'm not looking at that all the time. But in the beginning, I only had a couple, but I realized as I got more seasoned that it's to your benefit to have a little bit of everything as you go along. You want to showcase something that is for TV or has a TV sound. You want to have something that is a little bit more serious, maybe a news approach, or you want to have something that fits every one of those categories, because then that makes your searchability go up. So you want to have that 100% match rate for as many jobs as you can. And the more categories you hit and the more demos you have in those categories and different dialects, and if you can do accents, making sure you're putting those in there too, it's going to raise that visibility.
Now, did you do all of them, or did you ever get any professionally produced?
Nope, I did all of them. Yep. And I actually recently kind of comped together. It's the first one that I have on my profile right now, which is the 2018 demo. That is just kind of a compilation of a few, because I feel like, we have only a few seconds to impress somebody. So I figured if they're just going to listen to one, I want them to listen, and then all of a sudden it changes, and then all of a sudden it changes to something else. So it's kind of a comp together. I think it's about a minute or so of a few jobs that I've done.
So when you do a job now, do you get permission from that client to use it as a demo?
I haven't.
Have you ever gotten into trouble for it?
No, I haven't. But most of the time, and actually through all of the jobs that are in my demo right now, they're all posted on YouTube or they're posted on social media. So, they're out in the public anyway. So, but yeah, I would probably get permission. Thanks for that. I should do that.
We're trying to throw you under the bus.
If it's a file that they send you, then I would be a little bit, cautious. But if it's on social media or YouTube, I think it's probably fair game.
Absolutely.
Definitely, I agree. So seeing as you've had so much success so far with us here, I just want to learn a little bit more about what your typical day is like. Yeah, how many auditions would you say you do a day?
I aim for at least 5 auditions a day because I want to hit that 100 per month. What we do is a numbers game. And I think sometimes, we get emotional about it. If we don't get the jobs, it's like, well, what am I doing wrong? What's happening? But you just got to keep going. And it really is a numbers game. And I was looking back from last month. Actually, this month in July is the first month in a really long time, actually since my daughter was born 4 years ago, that I did not give voice lessons, because in the summertime, all the kids are home from school. So I normally pack in lessons. And I said to my husband, I'm like, you know what? I'm really doing so well with my voiceover career. I kind of just want to focus on that for July and see what happens. So I knew that was coming up. So in June, I busted my butt and I auditioned for, I think, 109, 110 projects. And then in July, I've gotten 11. So, you put in the work the month before and it shows. It shows big time. And that might not happen right away. And maybe it was just, it was just timing. But I feel like if you can take the emotion out of it and make it a numbers game, then it's going to be to your benefit. And even if you don't get those jobs, you're getting better and you're sharpening your craft and your skill. And I know we don't always get feedback on the audition or really ever, but when you start seeing those jobs roll in, you'll realize that, hey, I must be doing something right here.
Exactly. So when you were doing that many auditions, even last month in June, when you were getting ready to kind of slow down, how long were you spending on each audition, would you say?
I really don't spend that long on auditions. I really try to crank them out. So if I spend 3 minutes on an audition, that's a long time. So, little bug, fruit fly. Get out of here. Yeah, I really try to 2 to 3 minutes tops. And like I said, since I have those templates saved within the voices.com, platform, it's already there ready to go. I just type in their name, I record the audition, and on to the next one.
Do you do a lot of editing on them?
Not really sometimes, because my process is that I just keep it in record. When I'm starting a new audition, I just keep Adobe Audition in record, even when I'm reading it through for the first time. And then I go back through and I just chop off the pieces that I don't want and kind of cut and paste it together. But yeah, normally I just kind of read it through maybe 3 times and take the piece that I like the best, and off you go.
Okay, that's a good strategy. So while you're reading it out, do you print it out? Do you leave it on your computer?
I just leave it up on my computer. I have a double screen. So I have my editing side is to my right, and then on the left is the script. And I find if I had to print it out, that would be a lot of paper. And then I'm sitting there waiting to print it and make notes. Like, I just keep it right up. I don't even put it into Word or anything. I just leave it right up on the screen.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I try to keep it as simple as possible because, right, if you're sitting there printing it out, then that takes that extra step and extra time. And when I get the job, I was going to say I print it out, but most of the time I really just keep that on my screen too. So I can be making changes and edits and scroll right through. And then you're not hearing like all that, because that's no good, right? That's the worst when you have the perfect take and then it's like, or you knock something. So try not to have any distraction.
How much of an impact does it have when you go to audition for something and you see that, there are X number of people that have already auditioned ahead of you?
It makes me want it even more. If there's a ton of auditions, I'm like, oh, it's on. I want this now. Don't let that intimidate you. Really. I actually heard a really interesting statistic that 85% of the auditions that are not our clients, just across the board in the voiceover world, that the clients get, they can't use. And I was like, oh my gosh. And here I am, if there's 100 people auditioning for something, 85%, either they didn't read the whole script, or they only did the bare minimum, or the I don't know, their mic wasn't very good, or whatever it may be. So don't let that number scare you. If you're a perfect match for it, the client will weed through and find the perfect voice. So really, when I see if there's I don't think there's ever been a job over 300 people. I think maybe I've seen something for 200 before, but it makes me want it even more. I need this job now.
Even 200 sounds like a rather high number. I mean,
yeah, and that's rare. That's really rare.
Like, typically, what are you seeing on average? Like, would you say probably 50 or 60?
Probably in there. Now for the jobs that are a very small amount of words and then a big budget, of course, there's going to be a lot more people auditioning for that, because it's like, oh, well, who wouldn't want that, right? But yeah, probably on average, maybe like 60, 70. Sometimes there's 10, it really depends. And then if you speak another language, then it really is whittled down then. Or if you have a specific dialect or accent, then that pool gets much smaller. So yeah, don't let the numbers scare you. We can't live that way. Don't live out of fear, right?
Do you see any kind of a trend as far as the type of jobs you see more than others on voices.com?
Not really. Just when I think I have it figured out, something surprises me. I'm like, oh my gosh, they really have amazing clients on voices.com. I'm really surprised by the big names that come through, that are big clients. They're staying away from agencies. They're coming right to Voices, which is so cool. In the beginning, I thought it was just going to be all medical stuff. I'm like, I can't do that. That's boring. But it's really across the board. It's very different. And I love that it's always changing. It makes me really excited and sometimes maybe a little bit obsessive, because I'm like, if I see something that comes up, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's perfect. I need to do it. I need to do it right now. And my husband will tell you, I will run down to the studio at the beauty and craziness of having your own studio, but I'll run down at like 11 o'clock at night because I'm like, I can't miss that. It's perfect. And I've gotten jobs and I've said to him, we'll see, if I didn't do that, I wouldn't have gotten the job. So, but yeah, it changes all the time, which makes it so exciting.
Awesome. Is there a specific type of work that you see more on voices.com, or what kind of jobs are you seeing a lot of?
It's really across the board. There's radio, there's TV. I mean, I think what we do, we're just going to keep seeing these numbers get bigger and bigger. It's not like, oh, there's one TV project, we're going to keep seeing these big projects come through just by the nature of the voiceover world changing. Like I said, clients aren't going to those huge agencies anymore, and a lot of them are being filtered through voices.com. And so it's really in that regard too. It's changing all the time.
Have you ever done anything remotely, like on holidays? What do you do when you take vacation? Do you still do auditions on the road?
Well, yes and no. So I have this, here's my crazy battle wound. So see this crazy scar here? I don't know if you can see it. I was bit by a spider this time last year. And it did that, right? And I'm like, I don't have time for this. I got stuff to do. I got places to be. So I have never recorded on my phone, but when I was in the hospital for a week, it was actually really relaxing. Nobody was bugging me. It was great. There were some jobs that were coming through and I was like, I am missing my opportunity here. So I recorded them on my phone, and it actually created a great rapport with a few producers. One in particular, hi Chris. He's an awesome mentor and resource. And I was like, I'm really sorry this is on my phone. If you want to hear, the quality that I'm capable of, please listen to my demo, but I don't want to miss this opportunity. So I did record it on my phone, and I can't remember, to be honest, if I got the job or not. But yeah, if you're in a pinch, then I think that's fine. But I would always preface it by saying you can hear the quality that I would deliver by listening to my demos. I wouldn't really suggest that all the time, but if you're going to miss out on a job, I think it's better than nothing.
Absolutely. And it's not even a voiceover question. What kind of spider does that?
They think, I can't even think about it. I hate spiders.
I don't blame you.
I know.
They think it was a brown recluse. And I'm outside of Philadelphia, so they're not supposed to be here.
No,
Crazy.
not at all.
I know. It's a great story though. I tell people, I'm like, get a spider tattoo right there.
We are getting some questions coming in, which is great. Keep them coming in, guys, because this is for you. So Alan is asking, do you have to be able to do a lot of accents or dialects to be successful?
Not at all. Not at all. I really love accents. I was always the girl growing up who would just like break into some like New York thing out, like hanging with my friends, and they'd be like, oh my gosh, here's Rachael again. She's going crazy. And then I'd be like, but I don't understand why you guys think I'm so weird. But I think I've maybe gotten 2 jobs by using accents, and I love accents. So no, you don't have to. I think what the bigger thing is being able to put yourself out there. And if a job calls for you to be silly or do a silly accent or do a silly voice, that you're okay with that. And really just, like I said before, just putting yourself out there and giving it everything, not just, taking it here. You gotta take it that extra mile. But no, you don't have to do accents if that's not your thing. I would say don't do it if it's not your thing. If you're not good at it, don't do it.
Yeah, exactly. We always encourage people, don't say you can do an accent unless you can do it authentically.
Right.
How long did it take you to get your first job after posting a demo? And did you started out with some pretty decent equipment?
I did, yeah. The first job, I actually booked my first, that PetSmart job, within the first month. And I was looking back, getting ready for this interview, and I had auditioned for about 40 jobs, and then I had gotten that. And then it was quiet for a little while, and I was like, okay, where's the next one? And then the next month, I got one more. And then the next month I got 2 more, and then it just kind of started to snowball from there. So it wasn't like this huge rush. Like I got one, I got excited, and then I think I actually pulled back with the auditions too. I think I got a little cocky. I was like, I got a PetSmart. I got a PetSmart commercial. So cool. But you still have to keep going after that, right? So, so then when I really got into the habit, it's just making it a habit and making it part of my routine. That's when it really started to become something, that wasn't just here and there.
Another question from Michael saying, thanks. I found this to be an absolute wealth of information. Glad we could help you, Michael. He's like, my question is simple. A few minutes ago, you mentioned that for your first couple of demos, you found scripts in the resource guide. Is that a feature of voices.com? I can answer that. Yes, it is. But if you want to get in touch with us, Michael, just email your account manager, whether that be myself or Katie or someone else. We can send you a link so that it's easier for you to find. It is on there, but if we can make it easy for you, that even better. James has another question as well. In a follow-up to his original question, would you believe that the voices.com sample scripts would be a good place to start for beginners' first demos?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, really anything. I would actually just read through a whole bunch. You don't have to send it or you don't have to submit it as your demo if you don't like it. Just go through and record as much as you can, and then kind of take inventory and see what you have and find maybe the best 2 to start with or the best 3. And then as you keep getting better and you keep getting stronger at, maybe you'll find out what your thing is. You don't really know what your niche is going to be until you have auditioned for a number of things. So yeah, I think that's a great place to start.
And on the heels of that too, and I think it's important for us to make sure we kind of let you know that the demos themselves, while they're very important, it's a lot of it is really helping our system know what jobs to send your way, as is with the rest of your profile, because we want to make sure we match you up to the right jobs. So when you upload a demo, you can tag it with words that describe the style of the demo, the role you play, and it all drives the algorithm to make sure that you're getting the right jobs. So you're not getting something that's completely out of your wheelhouse and wasting your time. So you do want the demos, several of them, tag them accordingly, put them in different categories. The clients, yeah, they do listen to them, but they're more interested in what you add. The audition you submit based on the script that they provided for a given job. Have you found that your demos have gotten you much in the way of work, or has it been mostly from the auditions that you've submitted?
I think it's really the auditions. I mean, I do have views on the demos, so I know the people are listening to them, but I haven't had anybody say, oh, that was a great demo, here's the job. Like, here you go on a silver platter because that demo was so good. They want to hear how you sound on their project. That's most of the time, sometimes there are big agencies like I was saying before, but a lot of times there are mom and pop shops, which I love working with that kind of client because it's you can feel it and you can see it in the job description. So they want to hear you read about their passion, their what, if it's a store or if it's a whatever it may be, they're looking for that person to tell the story for them. So they want to make it, they want to hear it personalized. And I think if you just send the demo, then it's missing that warm fuzzy.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So to give our listeners, or viewers rather, a better idea of the whole process, what is your bidding strategy when it comes to your auditions?
I bid the highest. I do. I like to go through, and some jobs I don't audition for, to be honest. I'll look at the word count and I'll look at what they're going to pay. And if it's 8,000 words and they want to pay $500, I'm not going to do that. That's a lot of work for, not that big of a bang for your buck. So I really make sure that it's the kind of job that I want. And then I really try to make it, I don't know, I try to have that added value. So if it's a big job, I'll bid at the top. And then like I was telling you guys before, you can add that added value of doing a live recorded session. I almost think that's necessary for anything above 1,000. You want to, you really want to have them on the line, because if they're paying that kind of money, if they're not on the line with you, they're going to drive you crazy going back and forth. So it's to your benefit to have them on the line with you. So I always bid the highest. I give them that option of having a live directed session. Sometimes I've had where I haven't done that. Maybe it's a job for 400, and say in the beginning of, me auditioning, I didn't give that added value of a live directed session. But I've had clients come back to me and say, hey, can you give us another read? That entices me. I'm like, okay, they want another read. I'll throw in that added value then. I'll say, I'd love to give you another read. Also, if I'm chosen, I would love to do a live directed session. And that just kind of like gets them a little bit excited. So you want to make sure that they know that you want to work for them. So by giving them those little perks, I think really is a good benefit.
For sure. Can you explain a little bit about how you get paid from voices.com when the project's finished?
Sure. I love Fridays because we get paid on Fridays if the job closes. I think is it Thursday night? If the job closes Thursday night and everything's finished and finalized, then you get paid on Friday. I have it set up to go through my PayPal, which is super easy. There's no check sending, those days are long gone where you're sitting there waiting for your check. So I've been busy today. I haven't checked my PayPal, but normally it just goes right into my PayPal, and then I have it sent to my bank and I get it a couple days later. It's very seamless. And I love that because then it's very easy for me to keep track of the, what I've done then for that month or that week or that season. So that it just makes it very easy. And I love the fact that they have voices.com basically has your back, which is so nice, because if I were doing this on my own, there's been a few times where clients haven't paid. I've done the work. I've reached out to them numerous times and they haven't paid. So if I were doing that on my own, I would have to be the one following up to, okay, where's my money? Come on, let's go. And that's awkward. Sometimes we don't always want to be doing that. So with the structure of Voices, how they have it set, this has happened to me maybe 2 or 3 times where the voices.com staff went in and could see that the work had been done and the client just wasn't responding. So then they released the funds to me, which is great because, if you get hired for something, you expect to be paid. But if you're all alone out there and just doing it on your own, then you probably would be out a few $100 then, and that is no good.
Absolutely. And you know what, as you're definitely not the only talent that is talked very highly about that sure pay system that we have. So now also just to clarify too, because some people do like to get the check in the mail, whether maybe they don't have PayPal, we can still pay you by check if you prefer that. You're right, it does take a little bit longer. And the other nice thing too about PayPal is, yes, PayPal, I'd be honest, I don't have a PayPal account, but
What?
I do know that I know.
Really? You're the one guy who doesn't have it.
I'm the guy. I don't have Facebook either. So,
oh my gosh.
They
better off.
I know they have fees. We absorb those fees. So if you want to be paid through PayPal, that's probably a better option because we take care of the fees and you get paid instantly. It's like you said, it's I believe it's 2 Fridays after the job is closed that you get paid. And yeah, it's right in there as opposed to waiting for a check. We're coming up on just about closing time. One last question. I know we do have a couple from the viewers we'll get to as well. Actually, should do those first. I knew this was going to come. Mike's asking, how much do you get paid per job?
Per job. It's totally different. If it's a TV commercial, you're going to get paid a lot more. And it depends how long that runs. So if it's a TV commercial and they want to do a year buyout, meaning like they just want to pay you once for the year, it's going to be a nice fee. I would say upwards of $5,000 for the year. Now, and that is, it really varies depending on how big the company is. If it's a local radio ad, then that's going to be less. If it's just something for YouTube or for a client's website, that's going to be less too. I would say the average job that I see often is in the $200 to $500 range. So, and even $100, if if it's 50 words for $100, I'm going to bid on that. Why not? You know, if it takes me literally 3 minutes to do the whole thing, I'm absolutely going to bid on that. But it really does vary depending on the medium and the market. So, but it's nice that everything's out there.
Absolutely. And the one thing too that I think makes things, kind of puts it all in perspective is a job. Yeah. I mean, the lowest you'll ever be paid is $100. We don't have any jobs less than that. But $100 doesn't necessarily mean $100, because now you're in contact with a client who hired you once. And if they're a repeat client, which we have a lot of on the site, this job might be 100, the next one might be 2,000.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure you can attest to the fact that repeat business is what this is all about.
Absolutely. It's about creating relationships, because that's what this is. I mean, sometimes we get scared because it's, oh my gosh, and they don't know me, and I'm telling the story. It's about telling stories and creating that relationship that you can create a visual for their clients. So it's all about relationships.
Absolutely. I guess one more question to do with the auditions. Would you include a demo with an audition?
I haven't. I don't really think there's a need for that. I think if they're interested, they'll click on your profile and see the demos in there. So there's no need to add. And actually, I think you can only add one MP3 at a time anyway. So yeah, I just always include just the job. Remember, you want to streamline this. You want to make it as simple as possible so you can get as many in as possible.
Yep, exactly. Well, Rachel, I do want to thank you. Unfortunately, it's pretty much all the time we have for today, but
Oh man.
you've been absolutely phenomenal. If we missed any questions, please don't hesitate to email your account manager. If you don't know who that is, look on any correspondence you've gotten from voices.com. It likely came from your account manager. If you still don't know, just get in touch with us and we'll put you in touch with the right person. So Rachel, again, thank you so much for doing this, and thank you everyone for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been fun.